I would call up this gentleman here in front of me. He's a banker. And I'm going to make an arrangement with him. I'm going to tell him that I don't want to pay more than 6%. I'm going to tell him that I would like to, my bond issue is going to be $100 million. That is what is known as the reference asset or the reference amount. I've stated to him that it's $100 million of bonds that I'd like to issue. And I have locked in a rate with him which is 6%. That right there is a forward rate agreement. That's what we've done today. I didn't pay him anything. He didn't pay me anything. So we go on. He goes on to do other kinds of business, and I'm also analyzing what's happening in my business, and I'm getting ready for my bond issue. So today is March 6th. 3 months from now, we get to what? June 6th, right? So I do my bond issue. On that day, if the prevailing market interest rates are 6.5, what does that mean? What happens to me? What do I get to issue my bond at? What do I have to issue my bond at? Anyone want to take a stab? Sorry? 6.5, right? But some of you may be going, wait a minute, I thought that's what you didn't want to do. That's correct. That's not what I wanted to do because 6.5 is expensive for me. I had already determined that I wanted to issue at 6%. So guess who owes me 0.5 of $100 million? The bank. Right? 6.5. So I wanted to pay 6%, but market environment changed. Maybe risk was higher, maybe there was inflationary pressure. We're now up at 6.5. And the gentleman over here on my right tells me, well, guess what, Maida? You're going to have to pay the investor 6.5. But because I had a forward rate agreement, the bank owes me the difference. It owes me 0.5 of what? 100 million. Okay, so that's one scenario. Let's say that on May 6th, the interest rates are actually 5.5. So how much do I have to pay as an issuer? 5.5. Don't be shy. 5.5. So does anybody owe anybody any money, do you think? I owe the broker 0.5 because remember, the rate that we locked in was 6%. But because the rates were lower, it's 5.5. I owe him the difference. So some of you may be going, well, you're really dumb. Why did you do that deal? I break even in both cases because look at what happens. In the first scenario, okay, he owes me the money. I still have to pay you 6.5. I only wanted to pay you 6. But in effect, by doing the forward rate agreement, I'm paying you 6%. He's paying me the 0.5, okay, to make me even, to make me whole, to hedge me. In the second instance, when interest rates have gone down to 5.5, great. I'm excited. I get to pay you 5.5, but guess what? I've got to pay him the 0.5. But the reason I did this was because I was worried that the rates were going to go up. That's why it's very important always to keep in mind this issue of risk management, which is the first step you do in any transaction is you've got to identify your risk. And in this example, my worry was interest rate risk. I identified that rates could go up. Any comments or questions about this instrument? That very simply is, it's a derivative, it's a forward, and the specific forward that it is, it's an interest rate forward known as a forward rate agreement. A forward rate agreement is usually the type of instrument, who uses these kinds of instruments? It's definitely issuers, and it's usually for a short-term type of period, like a 3-month, maybe a 6-month. If I wanted to guarantee this rate, the 6% that I mentioned for a longer period, that's a different instrument which I'll talk about later, which is an interest rate swap. So this type of instrument tends to be used by issuers. Okay? It also is by borrowers. Let's say that I had been a construction company, and I know that I want to borrow money, but I don't want to borrow it right now. We're still in the winter. Okay? But I want to borrow it 6 months from now, for example, when it's the summer. So I would do the same explanation that I give you. I'm not a bond issuer, I'm a construction company, but I want to guarantee that when I do finally go to a bank and borrow the money, I'd like to borrow it at 6%, but if interest rates have gone up, it's going to be too expensive for me. Okay? But it's two parties. And second of all, forward rate agreements are rarely tradable. That's an important thing that I want you to remember. They're not tradable. So If, for example, I start to see that interest rates are going down, remember I was worried that they're going up, I've locked in with him at 6%, and now I start to see that the Fed keeps low, targeting the Fed funds lower, I see that the market at large is driving rates lower, and I think, wait a minute, I don't like this deal anymore because I'm going to have to pay him. I can't sell that contract to you. That's not a liquid instrument. There are other derivatives that are relatively liquid. This is not one of them. This is not one of them. Okay? So the advantage to this instrument, to a forward rate agreement, is that I can use it to hedge, to keep my borrowing costs lower. Okay? Do I have any risks? Sure, I have a risk. I have a credit risk with this gentleman because right when interest rates go up and he owes me the money, he may default. He may renege on his contract. Okay? He, in turn, has credit risk with me that when interest rates go down, I may not be able to pay him or I may not want to. So it's not a risk-free instrument. The largest risk in this instrument is credit risk. There can also be operations risk in terms of an error that we might make in the documentation, or there might be a settlement problem. But the biggest risk in this instrument is credit risk.